Today on WSRH Extra, we take a look at a soldier's long-anticipated return.
Also, we discover the history of the Old Wellington Mall.
Plus, one of our very own baseball players made Hawk history. WSRH Extra
Starts now.
Welcome to this history-themed episode of WSRH Extra. I'm Shannon O'Sullivan.
And I'm Alexa Koenig. Thanks for tuning in. Tattooing has been used throughout history in many different ways. For some, it's to express themselves, their religion, culture, or maybe just because it looks cool. There are many different beliefs about tattooing, and Extra reporter Rosenberg Sincere takes us through feelings towards new ink at a young age.
Tattoos come in all shapes and sizes, whether it's a promise to a loved one or to remember a special event. Many people who get tattoos have different reasons why they got them.
Well, my first tattoo I got when I turned 18, like the week I turned 18, and I got it with my mom. So it has like a lot of meaning because we kind of got it in the same arm and like we got it together and it was really cool.
It's a fountain pen, and so because I'm a writer, that's just what I got.
At the time, I thought it looked cool. It was it's a picture of an Indian with my nickname over it, Chief.
Although Miss Ahmad doesn't want a tattoo herself, that doesn't change her view on them.
I do know that as society, changes, it's a way of art more than, back in the day when sailors got it on the arm. And so I do know it's a way to express yourself artistically.
If you're younger than 18, you have to have parental consent. You may want one now, but as you get older, sometimes your views may change.
Too young to get a tattoo, definitely before 20, but I mean, personally, age, I guess, doesn't really matter, I guess, as much as the symbolism of the tattoo.
I think under 18 is too young. They have that rule for a reason, and when you're younger than that, you don't know if you really want this for the rest of your life.
Any age younger than 18, you shouldn't be allowed to get a tattoo for various reasons. One being, I feel like at that age, you're not really mature enough to get a tattoo, let alone endure the pain of getting one. I don't think that's right.
If you ever want a piece of art like this on your body, please make sure you really want it. For WSRH Extra, I'm Rosenberg Sincere.
Imagine someone you love being lost serving our country, only to be found 70 years later. For one family, this was the case. WSRH Extra reporter Jalen Bruce got exclusive access to the return of Richard Gordon Stalwell's remains.
A soldier's funeral is usually heartbreaking, but for one local family, it was a blessing. Richard Gordon Sowell, better known as Tiny, was finally laid to rest on November 8th after 7 decades of being an unknown soldier. Sergeant Sowell's remains were found in a foxhole in Saipan, Japan, and were shipped to Hawaii in 1949.
They called me one day, the Veterans Administration, out of the clear blue sky, and said, we have some remains that have been in an unmarked numbered grave that was buried with full military honors, but we think it might be your uncle. And if you would do a DNA test, the swab, we could go from there and start our testing. And sure enough, it was.
After the DNA test, Sergeant Sowell was identified and was set to fly home for the first time in 73 years. Sergeant Thomas Murphy decided that Tiny should get the full military welcome home as he should have gotten before. Sergeant Murphy organized the shipment of Tiny's casket and the full police escort to honor the fallen soldier.
I thought it was my duty to honor this guy in the best way that I could, so I made a lot of calls, made a lot of contacts, and we made it happen.
Sergeant Sowell's return allowed Lewis and his family to have the closure that they so desperately searched for.
All of our family is in Woodlawn Cemetery, and now he'll be there with his brothers and sisters.
The amount of support that Palm Beach County has had for this fallen soldier is simply astonishing. Richard Gordon Sowell will be remembered for his tremendous bravery and courage he acquired while in the line of duty. After 7 decades, he's finally home once and for all. For WSRH Extra, I'm Jalen Bruce.
The original Wellington Mall, or as we know as the Old Wellington Mall, has been serving the community since 1986. The mall has many different services that are provided, but what about this history of it? Extra reporter Chanel Dowers has the story.
The Old Wellington Mall isn't known to most people of the current generation, but on Forest Hill Boulevard, in plain sight sits the Old Wellington Mall. where Wheels of Wellington bike store owner Stan Kilbis continues business.
Business since May 30th, 1995, so it's 22 and a half years approximately.
Wellington resident Miss Long, a teacher here at the Ridge, has some personal experiences with living in Wellington and the mall itself.
I moved to Wellington in 2001, and then I moved out for several years and lived out here in Loxahatchee actually, and now I've been back in Wellington for 9 years.
Even with the building of the Wellington Green Mall in 2001, it still hasn't affected the little shopping center that much.
It really hasn't affected us that much because there's no bicycle shops in the mall at Wellington Green. What's hurt us more is the advent of online shopping. That hurts.
The mall still is different in comparison to the more up-to-date Wellington Green Mall.
My mom's office used to be there actually, and it's very strange inside. It's got a lot of like artwork and stuff in there, and it just looks very old-fashioned, and it kind of like creeps me out when I go in there actually.
The mall, after all these years, is still up and running and plans on staying that way for a while. For WSRH Extra, I'm Chanel Dowers.
We all remember the fun trips we have taken to the Science Museum when we were younger. The South Florida Science Museum brings back fond memories for plenty of us. Founded in 1959 by the Junior League of the Palm Beaches, the South Florida Science Museum has gone through many changes since it has opened. WSRH Extra reporter Kayla Wright has this story.
The Science Museum has been part of many generations and has made a lasting impact on many kids' lives. Throughout the years, the museum has experienced many changes.
We've been really trying to be a more up-and-coming science center, and we're trying to reach more people.
With the introduction of the museum in the 1960s, it is very different than it once was.
When it opened, it was just like a trailer, like a little tiny trailer.
The Science Museum has many more attractions than it used to.
So quite dramatically has changed since 2012, I would say, and we're still adding on. We just added a new golf course, so we're adding, pretty much every year we're adding a new exhibit.
With the new exhibits, regular customers are excited every time they go.
I feel like every time I come here, they have everything.
Not only do they have aquariums, but they have other exhibits that attract all kinds of people.
Definitely when we get new exhibits, I see a lot of different people, a lot of different cultures, and a lot of different minds.
Hopefully the Science Museum continues to make history. For WSRH Extra, I'm Kayla Wright.
The Silver Ball Museum is a true blast from the past with classic arcade games. These days, the games are very rare compared to the prime in the 1970s. WSRH Extra reporter Jada Quinones takes us to Silver Ball Museum.
The Silver Ball Museum in Delray Beach has been a place for people around the area to come and enjoy some rare arcade games and enjoy the playful atmosphere. But this wonderful place had an interesting way of starting up.
The owner actually has another place in Asbury Park, and he started it because his daughter's autistic. So she took a liking to the pinball machines, so he started doing it. He had like a small little garage full of pinball machines, and then his collection got out of hand, so he opened a place in Jersey. It was pretty successful, so he brought it down here.
The demographic at the Silver Ball Museum definitely does vary, but that certainly doesn't stop people of all ages from having their fun there.
We have, baby boomers that come in and they feel like have a sense of nostalgia because they have games from their childhood. And then we also have modern games, so you'll see, grandparents playing with their grandkids, bonding over a machine, which you don't really see too often.
The people who come to Silver Ball Museum always enjoy themselves and think very highly of the museum too.
Well, I like it because it's a fun place to take my son. I love to play the shuffleboard game, and it's an affordable place.
This is probably the best place ever because it's got all old school games, and if you are an old school person, you'll love this place.
Not only do the customers have a good time, but the workers find happiness in the arcade too.
I have a lot of favorite games here, but if I have to choose out of all of them, probably The Hobbit. They have all this crazy things that go on with it. They have 15 balls in there, so it's really cool.
I'd have to say Matahara, just because it's an older game, but it has a lot of levels to it, and it's very complicated when you actually get to play it.
Well, that was definitely a score. Thanks for tuning in. For WSRH Extra, I'm Jada Quinones.
Coming up on WSRH Extra, we see what history our reporters discovered in sports.
Plus, we take a look at the Seminole Pratt House.
Hi, I'm Alexa Koenig. And
And this is Shannon O'Sullivan, one of the worst car drivers I know. Here at WSRH Extra, we like to practice safe driving. So today, I'm going to teach you and her a few car safety tips.
Who are you talking to?
Okay, let's get started. Shannon here has a phone in her hand. Whether you're a passenger or driver, seatbelts are important for your safety. Shannon just ensured her safety. Nice job, Shannon.
Again, who are you talking to?
The people. All right, next tip. Shannon here loves music, but the problem is, it's way too loud. If you can't hear other vehicles, you may be the cause of an accident.
So Shannon, do you feel like a safer driver already? I feel like you made me a pretty safe driver, Alexa.
Nice. For WSRH Extra, I'm Lex Koenig.
Again, who are you talking to?
Okay, Shannon. Next episode, we might want to do road safety. With sports comes along injuries, and a lot of the times it has to do with ACL tears.
Yeah, and athletes seem to be giving it their all this year when it comes to their passions. For those stories and more, we go to WSRH Extra sports anchor, Anna Fontecchio.
Hi, Anna.
At Seminole Ridge. This week, we made sports history and examined some of our athletes' past and what it will mean for their future. After high school, some student athletes are fortunate enough to go on to play college sports. This week, one of our Seminole Ridge baseball players signed a letter of intent, and it was a historical signing. WSRH sports reporter Shannon O'Sullivan has the story.
All right, man, congratulations.
Baseball history here at the Ridge was created recently by Dustin Reville. The Hawk pitcher is the first baseball player to sign with a Division I school.
First D1, man. Congratulations. Thank you.
His career never actually started on the mound, but it did, however, with a relative picking up on his amazing throw.
Started with my grandma. She noticed that I could throw a rock really far, so she pretty much chose my sport.
When he played on the diamond, it took a lot of sacrifice for not only him, but also his family to get where he is today.
You know, we were at baseball parents. We were at the field all the time. So it was like dinners and stuff we would do at the field.
Dustin has come a long way since he was 9 years old, yet everything wasn't always perfect. He struggled with fighting the toughest critic, himself.
The breaking point was in my attitude, the way I held my head. Like if I made a mistake, I would get down on myself.
There you go.
Throughout his entire baseball career, Dustin has made his coach, friends, and family proud, although they may not realize he's made Hawk history.
Well, until this morning, I wasn't aware he made school history, so it's a major shocker for all of us. So pretty ecstatic and very proud of him.
Dustin Reville has created Seminole Ridge history and will go on to create a future as an owl at FAU. For WSRH Sports, I'm Shannon O'Sullivan.
Football is a sport played by some of the biggest students on our campus, but one of our star players nearly didn't make it on the field. WSRH sports reporter Jacob Bell shows us how he had to go big or go home.
Typical Friday night football. Quarterbacks and receivers making big-time plays for their teams. The focus is all on them, but for one impactful player, his path to the Seminole Ridge football team wasn't as clear-cut as you might think.
I got cut with a bunch of kids. A few of them were crying. I wasn't. I was just like, it's whatever. I'll come back next year.
Nick Scretchu, an offensive tackle for the Hawks, was cut from Seminole Ridge his freshman year. At the time, Nick wasn't the same player he is now.
I was probably like 6 foot, like 220. I didn't really get along with most of the kids. I was like an outcast. I didn't really get along with them. I just didn't really talk much. I didn't really care about football, so I just wanted to go home. I didn't really want to tell my parents, but I had to tell them because it's obvious.
Nick's way of rebounding was to literally get big, or else he was going to go home.
I'm 6'5", 280. I started to grow up and realize that college is actually something I might need. And my parents were like encouraging me to try out again. I didn't want to, but I did, and I made it.
High school football has certainly had its ups and downs, but for now, senior year has certainly been enjoyable.
I'm probably at my high point right now. Like, this is like my true self, like who I am right now. It's probably the best I've ever had, like my entire life. Like, this is the most fun I've had this season. Winning and actually having like teams that care about me.
For Nick, going big or going home has a little different meaning. For WSRH Extra, I'm Jacob Bell.
With all sports, there is a risk for injuries, and one of the most devastating injuries is the dreaded ACL tear. A few decades ago, this meant the end of your sports career. But as WSRH sports reporter Bryce Brandt shows us, new procedures are making athletes return much easier.
ACL tears are a devastating injury in the sports world, and when the injury occurs, it can be described as an excruciating pain.
Instant pain. One of my teammates made the mistake of putting her hand out, and I squeezed it and I almost broke her hand because the pain, but then it goes away and you're just left with it unstable.
It happens in a second, but the smallest of moves can cause a big injury like this.
I was at the pep rally like the second week of school, and like I just caught someone and was like standing wrong, and like my whole knee dislocated and like I just tore.
Most athletes consider quitting, but one Hawk here at the Ridge had other plans.
I mean, I never even thought about stopping. Like when I tore my ACL, it was just like, as soon as I tore it, I worked on getting back to football.
ACL tears back in the 80s and 90s were different and affected patients differently, but not just physically, also psychologically.
Physically, the recovery process, I'd say 3 to 6 months, but mentally it takes you over a year to get it out of your head about what happened and what you go through.
But because of modern advancements in technology and medicine, ACL recovery times have been reduced.
I think it was 4 months or 6. I had surgery on October 10th, and I was covered. I came back for spring, so I think it was 4 to 6 months or something like that.
The road to recovery can be a long one. It can take as many as 9 months to fully recover from an ACL injury. To get from here in the training room and back here on the field, for WSRH Extra, I'm Bryce Brandt.
With an average return to sports of between 6 and 9 months, it takes a lot of patience and a lot of physical therapy. Good luck to all of our recovering athletes. Well, that's it for WSRH Sports. I'm Anna Fontecchio.
Thanks, Anna. Well, that's it for this historical-themed episode of WSRH Extra. If you have any story ideas, please tweet us at SeminoleRidgeTV. I'm Alexa Koenig.
And I'm Shannon O'Sullivan. Tune in next time for a special themed episode.